Why did you reach out for coaching originally? And what problem were you trying to solve?
Oh, it's a tremendous question. So and we've talked about this at different points. We've talked about it a lot. It's come up that I try to be as self-aware as possible, and I'm just like everybody. I've got strengths and weaknesses, but I'm not too big on paying attention to weaknesses. I'm more about doubling down on strengths and having fun while you're doing it. But as a service-based entrepreneur, as somewhat there's some complexity involved in what I do. You can't just pick it up and learn it tomorrow and get results. I always relied on that part of me, that hustler, that person that's a good technician, that I'm personable, I can do sales, I can close deals. But the other stuff about being in a business, finance, operations, all that, I really let slide. But the problem was I didn't even know what was wrong. I just knew that it was wrong. And so I had heard about coaching, like executive coaching, CEO coaching, and I just started searching around. But I really, the thing that I wanted to identify was, okay, who is sort of somebody that can help people uncover what's wrong with them, like keep them accountable and sort of, take them by the hand and walk through the fire with helping them arrive at the correct conclusions, but not just from the sidelines, like helping with strategy and being basically like a partner, a co-founder for hire. And so I just needed that. I know my blind spots and I know that they're big, and, that was what I was looking for.
Great. How would you say that your business and maybe even your life has shifted over the past 6 months as a result of coaching and working together? What maybe were some of the more noticeable changes for you in either business or your life?
Sure. I'll give a couple for both. So for the company, from the company standpoint, we're a different company, operationally speaking. I mean, just from going through, creating a set of SOPs for all of our services, from productizing those services, getting insights from you about ways that I could be a bottleneck in things and removing those operational efficiencies, tracking my time and impact of that time in terms of dollars and looking at it that way was huge to separate some of that work and actually begin to build a team and a centralized process. So again, for a service-based entrepreneur, I think that is the single biggest hindrance of growth next to like lead and demand generation. It's processing yourself out of the business. And with that has come my second favorite thing, which is we're on track to double revenue this year. And, it's been tremendous. So just learning how to scale appropriately and develop a team and get myself out of the business has been huge, but have it still be effective. As far as myself, I did something really cool. You and me, was it month 1 or 2 that we talked about like trying to take a week off without working? Do you remember?
I think it was right at the end of the first month of coaching. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I still know people. I have other business owners, friends that are business owners who have never done that. They can't imagine doing it. And you and me talked about that way back before I could ever see what kind of steps it would take or what that would look like. But, my wife and I 2 months ago had our anniversary in July, and took 6 days off, went to Vegas. And that is, without working, I remember maybe checked 2 emails. That is an unfathomable 180 degree change, and I could do that again. I could totally do that again, maybe even more if I set it up correctly. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, Mike. So
yeah,
just having that freedom of choice of my time. I mean, entrepreneurship is one thing where you can choose that, but like actually doing it and have the ship run without you is it's crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah. And before COVID, I know that you had a goal to step away for a period of time. I think it was around a week and go run a marathon. Was it in Argentina?
Yeah, that actually didn't end up happening, but just because of COVID, the running season didn't go the way it was supposed to, but we did other fun things. So
Vegas instead. All right. Yeah, I love that. I love it because so many entrepreneurs operate from this perspective of, I'll take time off when. fill in the blanks.
Yep.
There's hundreds of them. And it sounds good, and it's a great way to trick ourselves into believing that if we just keep working hard, we'll get there someday. When the reality is, if you make the goal, if you set the week that you're going to step away, right? You have to start acting as if you're already there because it's coming, right? Like you're going to step away. You've bought the plane tickets. You're going to be forced to step away from your business and ideally do it in a way where you only have to check email a couple of times and things run smoothly or maybe even better because you're stepping out of the way and letting your team do their magic, right?
Definitely better. That was the astounding thing too. You empower people and you find ways to get creative ways, like you said, to get yourself out of there. And, your own brain will surprise you. Your team will surprise you. Urgency is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the hardest thing, I think, especially for entrepreneurs because our businesses are like our babies. We want to coddle them and take care and, tuck them in and be there for every waking moment. And that's a quick way to burn out. And I think that's, from my perspective, that's allowed you to step into that visionary role versus always being in the nuts and bolts of your business. Can you explain a little bit about what it feels like to operate in that more visionary role versus, a few months ago when you were 90% of the time, like heads down in all aspects of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I'm a big fan of really like self-awareness and introspection. And I'm a founder. I'm a leader. I'm a strategist. Like that is my zone of genius. I leveraged my skill set to be able to understand really technical things and develop this skill set that could help me make money and start a business. But working so much was not something that I ever felt comfortable with. And it's not like I don't like to work. It's like I don't like to work on those kinds of things or set repetitive, monotonous tasks. So for me now, where I can, go on a strategy call, I can roadmap a plan for a client. I can understand how my team is going to fit into every point of it, understand their margin, understand changes in the market, create new processes, create new products and services. That's like not only knowing which steps to take, but knowing where we should even be sailing to as a ship, in the first place is the most gratifying thing to me. And I think lately that's what I've gotten to do the most of is bring clarity for the team members who are confused about something, for our clients, for prospects. And it just, it feels like home. Like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Nice. Cool. How has that changed the way that your services are delivered to your clients?
Yeah. So we just have more capacity, obviously, which is the first step to growing something is increasing capacity. I've been able to put together a team that takes some of the, sort of the cognitive load from me of having to worry about like every day when things are going to get done or the way in which those things get done, which as a practitioner, it can seem imperative that you have your hand wrapped around how the deliverable is going to get done. But if you've done your job of explaining how it should get done and creating certain necessary parameters, then you're actually probably doing yourself. Like there's a point of diminishing returns to where a person who's better at that than you could take the ethos of what you're trying to accomplish and take the actual deliverable to new heights. And that's kind of the point that we're at now is I'm like, hey, this is what we need to end up with for the client. What do you think of? What do you guys think about that? And like, oh, this is great. This is dumb. Why on earth would you even ever tell them that? I'm like, what do you mean? Go on. And we'll go down that rabbit hole of questioning. And I have realized many times that, that deliverable was an 8 out of 10. It blew everybody's minds because, they don't know anything. They're just clients. They just need help. But realistically, we could be at a 9.5, 9.8. And I think that's where we are right now with a lot of things. So it's been beneficial in ways I could not have foreseen.
Yeah. I know one of the things we talked about early on too was which kinds of clients are going to help you get there. based on the amount of money that they pay you, based on the level of service you're delivering. You deliver a very differentiated and high level of service, even in a space that has a lot of lookalikes, right? But there's a huge variance in terms of the level of service that's delivered.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you shifted your focus on the types of clients that you wanted to work with, or that you realized, hey, this is kind of who we can best serve?
Yeah, I think the evolution was sort of through a few different conversations and questions that you had asked. And we kept kind of hitting the same types of problems when we would have our conversations. And I would internally like, okay, well, we're not at our revenue goal. Well, why is that? Because we're at capacity. Okay, why are you at capacity? Because you don't have enough people and I only have so much hours in the day. Okay, great. Why is that? Well, we don't have, and it's this cycle, because all of those are dependent on each other. So you have to sort of say, well, what's the most immediate part of the flywheel that's going to lead to the next part opening up, or in the cog, and then so on and so forth. And I just realized through like our conversations that we didn't even have a very well defined ideal client, profile, but it sort of occurred to me that our retainers aren't high enough on average to justify the kind of margins that we need for the tools and people to be able to get to a level where we can service even better, bigger clients, which is what we need to make more money. So the only problem to start was the level of client we accept going forward. That'll sort of act as a catalyst to the other issues. And I just remember like that light bulb moment. Okay, I just wrote down on a piece of paper one Saturday, they need to have at least be 5 years into the company. They need to be B2B because their margins are tremendous. And when people are searching in that industry for things, you can bet that they're going to convert at a slightly higher rate than B2C. And yeah, at that point, it made sense. And I think you and I talked about it, and yeah, just the rest is history.
Yeah. Great. So you could have chosen any number of coaches. Good Lord, there's enough coaches. You can throw a rock and hit one pretty easy. Was there a particular reason that you decided that I should be qualified as one of the people you would that would be in consideration, and maybe a little bit about why you chose to work with me specifically?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they call me Ken Spreadsheet Marshall. So as with everything, I'm like, okay, I need some parameters here to help my decision-making process. So I don't end up making stupid decisions, or at least I can hedge against that. So I just started putting some criteria together, and I'm like, they have to live, I think it was like 15 miles of me, 15 or 20 miles, because I've been through a couple of experiences before, and I was like, you know what, I think I want to meet up with somebody, or at least be close. The second thing is they had to spend time, like either as a founder prior, or at least like in a business environment, multiple business environments, because I think anybody who's a coach who just is like more of a raw encouragement person is just as dope. Like there's people who are amazingly smart and just need encouragement every day. No problem with that. I get out of bed and I'm ready to go, Mike. Like the future is clear. I know my marching orders. I'm excited. I'm motivated. I need I need a strategic partnership. So it needs to be somebody who could think about how to actually grow a business and has done it or been near it. And then, the other thing, again, I'm a gut driven kind of person. I just liked your face. Like you had a very approachable face. There's nothing grimy about it. Your marketing copy was solid and positioned you as an authority, but I used to write copy for a living. We write it for clients. I know when somebody is injecting authenticity into best practices, and then when they're just being a dickhead and trying to like game the system. So man, you hit on all cylinders, and I only had to talk to you once to know that we would be able to do great things.
Fantastic. It's a good thing I had shaved that day when we talked, I guess, right?
I don't know. I kind of like your salt and pepper. Like when you have the beard, I could go either way, but I'm not mad at the beard.
You've seen that more times than ever before with the state of COVID-induced non-shaving days.
Oh yeah, grooming is optional during quarantine. That's the law number 3 of quarantine.
Love it. What else, if anything? Well, I know that you've been involved with some other programs. Can you talk a little bit about what you had tried prior to this one-on-one coaching work that we've done together, and maybe how those served you or didn't serve you? What else?
Sure, yeah. And I
What
won't
else
say
have you
the
tried?
names necessarily, but
Yeah,
I'm
perfect.
not about that. But
Yeah.
just in general, I would say that there is no such thing as long as they aren't actually fraudulent. As somebody providing a product and a service, it's just about alignment. So the first one I did was like a group coaching thing, and it was this person they're amazing. They've written a book. They're super sharp. But what I realized is that this person, it was their first go at group coaching, and their target demographic was not a business owner who had hit 50K in revenue. These were brand new people who needed a mixture mostly of like how to get started and then how to make your first like $1,000, $10,000 business ideation, product market fit, et cetera, et cetera. I already done that. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I had already done that. So that wasn't beneficial to me because it was a group experience and it was the line of best fit content, line of best fit type of course and supporting material. And then the second one, I'm pretty sure if I would have done it, it's a big company now, so it's very productized, and I think it's actually great again, but for beginners. If I would have done it when the company's founder or founders, I don't know either or, I think it would have been a better experience. But it was overly productized for the price point, and very geared towards beginners. And I'll be honest, it was also not. I don't know if they took stock and created paths for the different like archetypes of people who would join, which is very hard to do at scale. But there was no trying to say if you're on this track, if you're this kind of person, if it's this kind of business, these are better avenues. And so I just didn't get a lot of lasting value out of it. Maybe besides feeling good, like an initial dopamine rush when you pay for something and you kind of get sold a certain dream. So what I would say is this is different because after the pre-qualifiers that I mentioned about you as a coach, everything else is going to be centered and tailored towards what are the next most important and urgent steps for you and your business can. And even somebody asking you that question regularly, I think is worth the money. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, speaking about the money, was there anything that made you anxious or nervous about the investment? And if so, how did you overcome that?
Sure. So I have sort of two things that come to mind with this. One, I personally was not. I don't necessarily feel bad about spending money on things that I love or that I can conceptualize as being a net positive for my life and my future. So, spending a couple $100s on dinner, nothing, because I've already budgeted that money. It's going to be an amazing experience, whatever. And I saw hiring the right kind of coach at this pivotal time in my company to have a long-term ROI. So, it wasn't a problem. I had no issues whatsoever. But I will say that the reason why I was confident is because of the diligence that I did. I'm an impulsive man, but I'm not stupid. I'm not miscalculated in things. And so making sure that you were the right person, that you had seemed to have the same values, that you had been there, done that. Those prerequisites let me know that wherever I ended up sort of in the future, even if it was slightly laterally different than I thought, it would still be up. And that's the only, what else do you need in business but to keep it moving, right? So.
Great. Cool. Was there anything about the coaching work that we did together that you found to be particularly effective for you?
Yeah. So, and this, I don't know if I've said this like concretely to you, but one of the things that I loved is that you took the idea of coaching, but you infused it with like tangible sort of artifacts that, I can use as the person that you're coaching, things that inform strategy as an owner. So one of the things I loved was, I think you called it the business builder scorecard, right? With the hours. Is that the one with the hours and the dollars?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that, for anyone listening, by the way, It's tremendous. I'll let you have talk to Mike about the implementation of it. But essentially, what it does is get you to understand that as a founder, as an owner, and CEO, you have the most important job. Your job is to bring in more business and make sure that your customers and your business, your product, your offer, your service are in alignment. And you can do smaller, unrelated, non-important tasks all the time that feel important. And so de-abstracting that and prioritizing it and putting it to dollars and making it make sense got me out of like a task mentality and into a, I need to be sending out like a couple of contracts per day. That everything else I'll figure out tomorrow, kind of thing. So just that you had so many resources and audits, and like I have audits for days. You know what I mean? I love audits. Audits are beautiful things, and the fact that you did that was useful, which is what I get it. I love you, like I do. I love spending time with you. I love your voice. I love your face. But it's about growth, tangible, predictable growth, and all the tools and resources you gave just blew my mind. They blew my mind, and I think they're unusual, and I think that's awesome.
Great. I think that what you said about growth at the risk of sounding just super linear, as a business coach, we can get along really, really well and have fun in coaching sessions, but along the way, if there's not measurable return on your investment in the form of growth in your business and some of those other cool things like being able to step away and go to Vegas for 6 days, if we don't have the growth, we don't, from my perspective, we're not accomplishing what is like really important about your business, especially at the stage that you're in. How would you describe the feeling that you have with how your business has grown over the past few months?
Yeah, the way I put it is, I think I said this to you, but I feel a clarity around my marching orders to an end game that is satisfying for me. And as a business owner, sometimes, we'll tell ourselves something like, in the future, I will take more time off, or if I can only just get to this thing, I'll make more revenue. But these are all sort of abstract, emotionally driven, crazy person ideas and thoughts. What I think the benefit is that I feel now is, we're not done, but I know what steps I need to take, and I can now see the finish line. Whereas before, I was sort of just doing activities that were still moving up and to the right, but it was at a much more linear pace. Whereas now, it's not exponential, but we're approaching a much higher, steeper growth curve every month, since we've been working together. And that starts to build in predictability and forecasts when I can say, okay, this is when I hire a general manager. It's Q2 of 2021. And that's when I get to do the thing that rewards me as a person, which is work, 10 hours a month, 5 hours a month. And that kind of clarity of steps to take to get to a goal and having a tangible goal, as they say, it's priceless.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the disclaimers around coaching that I think always needs to be stated is that you could be the best coach in the world, but if you don't have an amazing client, the person who does the work, then it's not going to be a good reflection of you as a coach, right? Another way of saying that is without your ambition and capability and inspiration to step into the work every day, this would have been a bad match. We might have had fun and grabbed a beer together and things like that, but it's your ambition and your desire to serve in a really powerful way that creates the growth, that creates the impact. That's always the caveat with coaching.
I think it's a beautiful synergy. Both offer each other.
Yeah. Well, what are you most energized by? So as you think about your business, if you think about your future, where you're headed as an entrepreneur, what gets you most excited?
Yeah. So one of the cool things that I've decided amongst this is we've started actually creating products from our SOPs for our services. And so it's kind of got me to thinking. I have all these ideas for tools. Like I've built a few tools and I've modified a few tools from other people internally for us to use. And just thinking about that on the product side, or every service company wants to be a SaaS company is what I hear a lot and what I discuss with people. And so not only do I want to make $1 million in 2021, but I want to in 2022 at some point I would like to develop a SaaS product under the same brand, and that leads to a level of scalability and potential financial freedom that a service model, no matter how much we grow, just cannot compete with. So that's the first thing. It's just this possibility of like who we are and what we look like. You've challenged me on who do you want to look like? If you could be anything, what would that look like? What pivots do you need to make? It challenged me to think of us in terms of that. And I mean, there's not too many things I set my mind to that don't end up happening. So it's just, that's exciting, just knowing that. And the second thing is just that the reality that I can design and architect an environment that gives me the kind of life I want to live, as long as I identify that endpoint, that North Star, just taking the 6 days off was tremendous. Like I've never done that, I doubt my dad's ever done that, that's such a cool thing to have that kind of control and freedom and just be able to breathe. And I'm still going to work hard. I'm going to work hard every day till I die, but it's like, what am I working hard at? I just feel so much more in control of that going forward. So
fantastic. One final question for you.
Bring it.
If anyone were considering growing their business, optimizing their business, streamlining their business, hiring a coach to do those things, and they were on the fence about it, maybe it was for the time, or they've had a bad experience, or the money, what would you say to that person?
I think I would start by saying, asking them, I guess, a question of what kind of thing did you go into this wanting, or person or resource, or like sort of what's your end goal? Because for me, I needed to know those criteria because I knew if I found somebody that fit them, the results, where I ended up would take care of itself, but it would be a net positive. So obviously, if you're on the fence, like you probably have something in you that says something is dramatically wrong and I can't identify it, or haven't, or don't see a clear path towards identifying it. So I would say take time to decide what you want, what's wrong, and where you want to end up. And then just honestly, you're a nice guy, Mike, like hopping on the phone with you, and you'll probably tell somebody they're not a good fit before they do. So not thinking they have to make that decision blindly, but having actual criteria to take to you and say, is this a good fit for the both of us? And I think with you, if they've done the work of their diligence, like talking to you will help clear things up. So I would go in that order for people. I don't think there will be any confusion if you take those steps.
That's really good insight, really good advice for anyone, period, that's considering hiring or working with a coach.